Welcome back to our channel. In this video, we reveal some of the most valuable coins in the world, coins that collectors and investors are willing to pay thousands or even millions for. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America right now, a small copper coin is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or the bottom of a forgotten box. It doesn't glitter like gold, it doesn't shout for attention, and yet its value has stunned seasoned collectors and quietly changed lives. What if I told you that a 1978 Lincoln 1-cent penny with no mint mark, a coin most people wouldn't even bother to pick up, has been linked to a market value reaching as high as $712,000? And here's the uncomfortable question most people never ask themselves. What if you already owned one and didn't know it? That thought alone should stop you in your tracks. Because history has a habit of rewarding those who pay attention and punishing those who don't. Welcome to a story about awareness, timing, and hidden opportunity. This is not just about a penny. This is about the moment when ordinary people realize that extraordinary wealth can come from the most unexpected places. The year 1978 was not supposed to be special. The U.S. Mint struck millions of Lincoln cents, and most were spent, traded, ignored, and eventually forgotten. But within that massive production, something rare happened. A small group of pennies left the mint without a mint mark, and in certain error conditions, these coins became something else entirely. Not loose change, not pocket money, but a high-demand collectible that serious buyers actively search for today. Now let's pause for a second, because this is where most people make a mistake. They hear no mint mark and assume it means common. They hear 1978 and think it's too modern to matter. That assumption is exactly why valuable coins slip through fingers every single day. Coin collecting doesn't reward assumptions. It rewards precision. It rewards curiosity. And it rewards those who understand that rarity isn't always about age. It's about mistakes, timing, and survival. In the case of the 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, certain error varieties stand out so dramatically that collectors compete fiercely to own them. This brings us to Act 1 of our story, discovery. Somewhere, a collector or seller notices something unusual. Maybe the strike looks off. Maybe the lettering feels wrong. Maybe Lincoln's profile doesn't align the way it should. And suddenly, what was once overlooked becomes examined under magnification. This is the moment excitement kicks in. Heart rate rises, because every experienced collector knows that errors are where the real money lives. Errors are the fingerprints of history, proof that even the most powerful systems are imperfect. And when imperfection meets demand, value explodes. Act 2 is where fear and urgency quietly take over. As word spreads among collectors, demand intensifies. High-grade examples disappear into private collections. Auction results begin to shock people who once ignored these coins. Prices climb not because of hype, but because of scarcity and competition. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The longer you wait, the fewer opportunities remain. Every year, more of these rare error pennies are locked away, certified, and removed from circulation forever. The window doesn't slam shut loudly. It closes silently, while people are distracted by noise, trends, and things that don't matter. Let's break the tension for a second with a simple question. Be honest with yourself. When was the last time you actually looked at your pennies? Not dumped them into a jar. Not spent them at a store. Looked at them. Because it would be almost ironic, wouldn't it be, if the difference between financial opportunity and regret was a magnifying glass and 5 minutes of attention? That's not fantasy. That's how real coin discoveries happen. Not in vaults. Not in movies. But in everyday homes. Act 3 is where transformation happens. This is the point where knowledge becomes action. The people who win in this market are not gamblers, they're informed decision-makers. They understand that a properly identified, authenticated 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny error, especially in exceptional condition, is not just collectible, it's desirable. It represents exclusivity. It represents history. And most importantly, it represents leverage. Because when collectors want something badly enough, price becomes secondary to ownership. This is why the conversation today isn't about pennies, it's about positioning yourself. About recognizing that wealth doesn't always announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it whispers from a coin jar. The market doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards preparation. And those who take the time to identify, verify, and professionally evaluate their coins place themselves in a completely different category than those who assume they have nothing special. Right now, interest in rare US error coins is stronger than ever. Collectors are actively searching, auction houses are watching, and private buyers are paying premiums for standout examples. This is not a declining hobby. It's a competitive marketplace driven by scarcity and desire. And the 1978 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny error sits firmly in that conversation. So here's the final thought, and it's one worth sitting with. Opportunity doesn't always come wrapped in luxury. Sometimes it comes copper-colored, 1 inch wide, and overlooked by millions. The question isn't whether these coins exist. The question is whether you're willing to recognize their potential before someone else does. Because somewhere, right now, someone is discovering that their spare change was never spare at all. And that realization is worth far more than a penny. If this sparked curiosity, that's good. Curiosity is the first step toward discovery. And discovery, when paired with action, has a way of changing everything. What if I told you that one small copper coin, sitting quietly in a jar, a drawer, or an old coffee can in your home, could be worth more than a luxury house? Not a gold bar, not a rare painting, a penny. Specifically, a 1970 Lincoln 1-cent coin with a rare error that has stunned collectors and driven demand into the stratosphere. Stay with me, because if you've ever handled pocket change, you may have already held history and never realized it. And here's the uncomfortable question most people avoid. How many fortunes get spent at gas stations every single day? Picture America in 1970. The country was changing, inflation was rising, and millions of pennies rolled out of the Denver Mint. They were meant to be ordinary, disposable, forgettable. Yet hidden among them were microscopic minting mistakes that would later turn common change into a 6-figure prize. This is where fear quietly enters the room, because every year, more of these rare pennies are lost forever, damaged, or spent by people who didn't know what to look for. And once they're gone, they're gone. Let me ask you something just to reset your attention for a second. If someone offered you a check for $828,000, but said you had already owned it for years and never cashed it, would you laugh or feel sick to your stomach? That emotional swing right there is exactly why this coin matters. The 1970 Lincoln penny looks innocent at first glance. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile, the bold date, the small D mint mark beneath the year, quietly indicating Denver. But collectors don't see this coin the way the average person does. They see it like a crime scene, a puzzle, a whisper of chaos inside a system designed for perfection. And it's those whispers, those mint errors, that have turned specific examples of this penny into some of the most aggressively hunted coins in the US market. One of the most talked about errors involves doubling and die anomalies so subtle that untrained eyes miss them completely. Letters that seem slightly thicker than they should be. A date that looks just a little off. Lincoln's details appearing stronger, heavier, almost as if the coin wanted to announce itself but wasn't allowed to. That tension between ordinary and extraordinary is exactly what drives elite collectors wild. They're not buying copper. They're buying scarcity, story, and status. And here's where excitement kicks in. Verified high-grade examples of rare 1970 era pennies have reached market values reported as high as $828,000 when condition, authenticity, and demand collide at the right moment. Not because someone guessed, because serious money chased them, because competition does that. When two wealthy collectors want the same thing, price stops being logical and starts being emotional. Now, quick pattern interrupt, be honest. How carefully did you look at your last penny? 2 seconds? Less? Most people treat pennies like dust. Collectors treat them like land in Manhattan. Same object, completely different mindset. That difference is where wealth hides. The urgency here is real. The generation that saved coins in jars, cigar boxes, and old envelopes is aging. Collections are being inherited, sold, or broken apart right now. The market is hot because supply is shrinking and awareness is rising. Once a rare error coin is certified, locked into a private collection, or placed in a long-term investment vault, it effectively disappears from the open market. Demand doesn't disappear with it. Pressure builds. This is where everything connects. Fear of loss, excitement of discovery, urgency of timing. The 1970 Lincoln penny is no longer just a coin. It's a decision point. Ignore it and you stay where you are. Pay attention and you step into a different category of thinking, the kind where everyday objects are evaluated like assets. Imagine the quiet confidence of knowing that what you own isn't just old, but desired. Not just saved, but hunted. High-end collectors, auction houses, and private buyers are not looking for weak stories or average coins. They want standout pieces with verified errors, strong eye appeal, and undeniable presence. And when those appear, they move fast because they know something most people don't. Opportunities like this don't announce themselves twice. Let's pause for one more attention reset. If a penny can be worth $828,000, what does that say about the way most people define valuable? It tells us that wealth isn't always loud. Sometimes it's small, copper-colored, and hiding in plain sight. The people who win are the ones who look closer while everyone else looks away. This is a positive moment, powerful one, because awareness alone changes outcomes. If you own old pennies, especially from 1970 with a Denver Mint mark, you are no longer just a holder of spare change. You are a potential participant in a high-demand collector market fueled by scarcity, competition, and legacy wealth. The difference between curiosity and action can be hundreds of thousands of dollars. The smart move now is attention, care, verification, understanding that condition and authenticity are everything. This isn't about hype, it's about positioning yourself before the rest of the world fully catches on. The clock is already ticking, not loudly, but steadily. As more coins vanish from circulation and fewer chances remain, so the next time you see a penny, don't dismiss it, question it, examine it, respect it, because history has already proven that the smallest things, when misunderstood, create regret, and when recognized, create freedom. And the 1970 Lincoln penny is no longer a secret. It's a signal. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a small copper coin is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, maybe even a forgotten box in a garage. It looks ordinary, feels ordinary. And yet, this single 1976 Mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny has been connected to values reaching as high as $945,000. Let me ask you something that instantly changes how you see your pocket change. What if the coin you ignored for decades is the very thing that could redefine your financial future? Most people never look closely. That's the danger. And that's exactly why the opportunity still exists. This story begins in 1976, a year most Americans remember for celebration, pride, and history. The nation was marking its bicentennial, and the U.S. Mint was producing massive quantities of coins to keep up with demand. Speed mattered. Volume mattered. Perfection did not. And in moments like that, when pressure is high and production is relentless, rare mistakes are born. Not small mistakes, monumental ones. Errors that slip past quality control and enter circulation, unnoticed, underestimated, and eventually legendary. The 1976 Lincoln penny was never meant to be special. That's what makes it extraordinary. Hidden within a small number of these coins are rare mint errors, errors so precise, so unusual, that collectors and high-end buyers aggressively compete to own them. We're talking about coins that reveal striking anomalies in striking, alignment, die preparation, and metal flow. Errors that trained eyes recognize instantly, and untrained eyes pass by forever. Here's a quick reset question for you. If a penny could pay off your home, fund your retirement, or change your family's future, wouldn't you want to know exactly what to look for? This is where Act 1 ends and reality sets in, because most people already had this coin, and most people already lost their chance, simply because they didn't know. Pennies were spent, traded, discarded, or rolled up and forgotten. That's the fear. Not that these coins don't exist anymore, but that the window is closing as collectors quietly secure them one by one. Now Act 2 begins, the awakening. Over the past few years, demand for elite Lincoln penny errors has surged dramatically. Wealthy collectors, investment buyers, and numismatic insiders are no longer chasing just gold and silver. They are hunting documented rarity. Coins with stories. Coins with errors that cannot be recreated. The 1976 D penny error falls squarely into this category, and the market knows it. That's why verified examples with dramatic error characteristics and strong visual impact have been associated with valuations approaching $945,000 in the current high-end market. Here's the exciting part. These coins were not pulled from vaults or private mints. They came from circulation, from everyday Americans who never imagined that a single cent could carry six-figure or even near seven-figure potential. And yes, it sounds unbelievable. That's the humor in it. A penny worth more than a luxury car, a house, or decades of salary. If someone told you this 20 years ago, you would have laughed. Today, the market isn't laughing at all. Collectors value what cannot be duplicated, and mint errors are permanent fingerprints of history. Once discovered and authenticated, they become assets, quiet, powerful, and in relentless demand. The 1976 D penny error is especially desirable because it sits at the intersection of history, scarcity, and visual impact. Bicentennial era, Denver Mint, Lincoln design, and an error profile that stands out even to seasoned professionals. That combination creates urgency, and urgency creates value. Let me slow you down for just a second, because this is important. Not every 1976 D penny is valuable, but the ones that are, they change lives. And the difference between an ordinary coin and an extraordinary one often comes down to a few overlooked details. That's why knowledge is everything in this market. Those who understand what they're holding act decisively. Those who hesitate usually watch someone else profit. As we move into Act 3, the message becomes crystal clear. We are living in a moment where hidden assets are being rediscovered. Inflation has shifted mindsets. People are reevaluating what value really means. And tangible, historical, finite assets are commanding attention like never before. Rare penny errors are no longer a niche curiosity. They are a serious arena for serious money. If you are between 30 and 65, living in the United States, and you've ever saved old coins, inherited collections, or even casually set aside pennies over the years, this is your wake-up call. Not tomorrow, not someday, right now. Because every year that passes, more of these coins are found, graded, locked into private collections, and removed from the open market. Scarcity tightens, prices rise, and opportunities disappear quietly. Here's a final thought to reset your focus. What if wealth isn't always about what you earn, but about what you already own and haven't recognized yet? The 1976 D Lincoln penny error represents that idea perfectly. A small object with massive potential, hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right moment and the right person to take action. This isn't about hype. This is about awareness. The people who win in this space aren't gamblers. They're informed. They look closer. They ask better questions. And they move with confidence when opportunity presents itself. If you have old pennies, now is the time to examine them with purpose. Because in a market driven by rarity and demand, the next life-changing discovery doesn't announce itself loudly. It waits patiently for someone who knows its true worth. What if I told you that one ordinary-looking penny, yes, a single 1979 D Lincoln 1-cent coin, could quietly be worth up to $666,000, while millions of Americans unknowingly pass similar coins through their hands every single day? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, what you're about to hear may completely change the way you look at the loose change in your pocket, your desk drawer, or that old coffee can in the garage. And here's the uncomfortable question most people never ask themselves. If life-changing value was sitting inches away from you, would you even recognize it? This story begins in the late 1970s, a time when inflation was rising, confidence was shaken, and the U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln pennies at a pace so fast that perfection quietly slipped through the cracks. In Denver, marked by the small but powerful D Mint mark, certain 1979 Lincoln cents were born with extraordinary minting errors, mistakes so rare, so overlooked, that decades later they would ignite fierce competition among elite collectors. And while most people see a penny as disposable, serious buyers see something very different: scarcity, history, and the unmistakable scent of opportunity. Now let me ask you something. When was the last time a bank paid you six figures for doing absolutely nothing? Exactly. Yet that's precisely why fear creeps in at this stage of the story. Fear of having already spent one. Fear of owning one right now and not knowing it. Fear that someone else is about to cash in on what you've ignored for years. Because the truth is, the most valuable 1979 Lincoln penny errors don't scream for attention. They whisper. Off-center strikes, dramatic die breaks, doubled design elements, and rare planchet anomalies appear subtle to the untrained eye, but to seasoned buyers, they are unmistakable signals of extreme value. This is where excitement kicks in, because history has proven something powerful. The rarest coin errors don't follow economic cycles, they defy them. While markets fluctuate and currencies weaken, elite error pennies continue to attract demand from investors, museums, and private collectors who understand one simple principle. Once these coins are locked away, they are gone forever. And here's the pattern interrupt most people aren't ready for. The penny you ignored as a child might retire you as an adult. Funny how that works, isn't it? As we move deeper into this story, the 1979 Lincoln cent transforms from pocket change into a financial instrument. Certain documented error examples have captured headline-level attention, commanding valuations that soar into the hundreds of thousands of dollars when condition, rarity, and error severity align. These aren't theoretical numbers. These are real conversations happening behind closed doors at high-end auctions and private sales. And the reason you don't hear about them every night on the news is simple. Those who understand this market move quietly, decisively, and early. Here's where urgency enters the room. Time is not neutral in the coin world. Every year, more coins are damaged, cleaned, or lost forever. Every year, collectors with deep pockets grow more aggressive as the supply tightens. And every year, the gap widens between those who act and those who hesitate. If you own old pennies, especially rolls, jars, or inherited collections, you are either sitting on dormant value or unknowingly letting it slip away. There is no middle ground. And no, checking later is not a strategy. It's a delay disguised as comfort. Why now? The story reaches its turning point. This is the moment where awareness becomes power. The Lincoln penny has always symbolized humility and honesty, but in the world of rare errors, it also represents leverage. The 1979 error penny stands as a reminder that wealth doesn't always announce itself with noise. Sometimes it arrives disguised as copper and zinc, waiting for someone sharp enough to recognize it. And the people who win in this space aren't gamblers. They are informed decision-makers who understand that knowledge creates timing, and timing creates advantage. So let me leave you with this final thought as the story resolves. Somewhere in America tonight, someone is holding a penny that could rewrite their financial narrative, and they don't even know it yet. The question isn't whether these coins are in demand. They are. The question isn't whether serious money is being paid. It is. The only real question is whether you'll be the one who recognizes opportunity before the rest of the world catches on. Because once the spotlight hits, the quiet advantage disappears. And if this message made you pause, even for a second, that's not an accident. That's awareness waking up. Stay curious, stay alert, and remember, sometimes the smallest coin carries the heaviest value. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America right now, a small copper penny is sitting quietly in a jar, a drawer, or an old coffee can in the garage. It looks ordinary, feels ordinary, and that's exactly why it's dangerous. Because this single coin, if ignored, could cost its owner nearly $1 million. Today, we're uncovering the shocking truth behind the 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a rare error coin with a current market value reaching $993,000. And here's the unsettling part. Thousands of people have already spent or discarded this coin without ever knowing what they had. Don't let that be you. This story begins like most life-changing stories do, not with excitement, but with routine. In 1988, the United States Mint struck millions of Lincoln pennies intended for everyday use. Gas stations, grocery stores, vending machines. Nothing special, or so everyone thought. But hidden within that flood of ordinary cents was a small number of coins that escaped the mint with a critical error, no mint mark, combined with rare production anomalies that collectors now consider legendary. Coins like these weren't meant to exist. And when something isn't meant to exist, the market pays attention. Now let me ask you something and be honest with yourself. When was the last time you actually looked at your pennies? Not tossed them aside. Not ignored them. Actually looked. If your answer is, I can't remember, you're not alone. Most people treat pennies like noise, background clutter. But high-level collectors and serious investors know a secret the general public doesn't. The greatest opportunities are hidden where no one else is paying attention. That's not just true in coins. It's true in life. Here's where excitement starts to build. The 1988 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny era has become one of the most aggressively pursued modern-era coins in the US market. Why? Because it checks every box collectors crave. Scarcity, mystery, historical relevance, and most importantly, documented sales that have pushed values toward $993,000. When elite collectors compete, price stops being logical and starts becoming emotional. And emotion is where fortunes are made. But let's slow down for just a second, because this is where fear sneaks in. Every year, these pennies are lost forever. Melted, spent, thrown away. Each one that disappears makes the remaining examples more valuable. Which means time is not neutral here. Time is your enemy if you delay, and your best friend if you act now. The market doesn't wait for people who are meaning to check someday. It rewards the people who move while others hesitate. And yes, I know what you might be thinking right now. A penny? Really? It sounds almost funny. A coin most people wouldn't bend over to pick up is suddenly worth nearly $1 million. That disbelief, that little laugh, is exactly why this opportunity still exists. History is full of moments like this. People laughed at those who bought gold when it was cheap. They laughed at those who invested early. And they laughed at people who said old coins could change lives. Until the auctions happened. This brings us to the turning point, the moment where curiosity becomes decision. The collectors dominating today's market aren't guessing. They're hunting. They're paying premiums. And they are actively searching for privately held examples of rare Lincoln penny errors, especially the 1988 no-mint mark variety. Demand isn't slowing, it's intensifying. As more wealth flows into tangible assets, rare coins are no longer hobbies. They are strategy. Now imagine what happens if you're holding one of these coins. You're no longer someone hoping for luck. You're someone holding leverage. Suddenly, you're in conversations most people never get invited into. Private buyers, high-end auctions, serious money. This is how quiet wealth is built. Not through noise, but through knowledge and timing. And here's the empowering truth. This opportunity doesn't belong to insiders only. It belongs to people willing to look twice at what they already own. People who understand that wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers from the bottom of a drawer, waiting for someone smart enough to listen to us. So here we are, at the final act of this story, and it's the most important one. Nothing changes if nothing changes. That jar of pennies you've ignored for years could be meaningless, or it could be the single most valuable object in your home. The market is hot. Demand is real. And opportunities like this don't stay hidden forever. Once they go mainstream, the advantage is gone. The question isn't whether the 1988 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is valuable. The market has already answered that. The real question is whether you'll take action before someone else does. Because right now, while you're watching this, someone else is checking their coins. And the only difference between them and you is one decision. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a simple brown penny is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or maybe even your pocket. It looks ordinary, feels ordinary, and that's exactly why most people never stop to question it. But what if I told you that one specific Lincoln penny, minted in 1997 with a small D beneath the date, has been linked to headline-grabbing valuations approaching $928,000? Pause for a second. Let that sink in. A coin most people wouldn't bend down to pick up, holding the power to change an entire financial future. Now here's the uncomfortable question most people avoid asking themselves. What if the next person to overlook it is you? Act 1 begins with awareness, because history shows us something fascinating. Every generation misses its own opportunity simply because it looks too ordinary at the time. The 1997 D. Lincoln penny was produced in massive numbers at the Denver Mint, a year most collectors once dismissed as too modern to matter. That assumption became the blind spot. and blind spots are where fortunes hide. Within that year, rare minting anomalies emerged, subtle errors so easy to overlook that even experienced collectors walked past them for years. Coins with microscopic irregularities, alignment distortions, striking anomalies, and rare surface characteristics began surfacing in private collections. Not because people were searching for treasure, but because they finally asked a better question. What if this isn't just a penny? And here's a quick pattern interrupt for you. Be honest. How many pennies have passed through your hands in your lifetime? Thousands? Tens of thousands? Exactly. That's not bad luck. That's proximity. As awareness grew, so did tension. Because once collectors realized what they were holding, the market reacted the only way it ever does when supply collides with sudden demand. Prices climbed, quietly at first, then rapidly. The fear wasn't missing out on a trend. It was discovering too late that the opportunity had already passed through your hands. High-grade examples tied to rare error characteristics began commanding serious attention. Not hobby money, wealth-level money. And when valuations near the $928,000 range started circulating in elite numismatic circles, something shifted. The conversation moved from collecting to legacy, from curiosity to urgency, from interesting to why didn't anyone tell me sooner? Act 2 is where excitement takes over because this is where stories stop being theoretical. This is where everyday people step into the spotlight. Retirees, working professionals, families cleaning out old storage boxes, people who never considered themselves collectors, suddenly realized they were sitting on overlooked assets. And here's the fascinating part. The 1997 penny doesn't scream rarity. It whispers it. That's what makes it so dangerous to ignore. The error traits are not loud. They require attention, patience, respect for detail. And let's reset your attention for a second with a simple question. What other asset class lets you find life-changing value without competing with Wall Street, without market crashes, without insider access? Exactly. Coins don't care who you are. They only care what they are. As demand surged. The narrative shifted again. These coins weren't just selling. They were being chased. Auction houses, private buyers, and high-end collectors all wanted one thing: authenticated, high-grade examples with confirmed mint errors. And when demand outpaces availability, price is no longer the question. Access is. This is where excitement turns into momentum. Because the people who act early don't ask if the market is crowded. They ask if they're positioned. And the reality is most people still aren't looking. Which means the window hasn't closed. It's narrowing. And narrowing windows reward decisive action. Act 3 is about transformation because this is where information becomes opportunity. The 1997 Lincoln penny represents more than a potential financial windfall. It represents a mindset shift. A shift from overlooking to observing. From spending to preserving. From chance to choice. The wealthy don't stumble into value. They recognize it before the crowd does. And that's why this coin continues to command attention in high-demand circles. It's not nostalgia. It's not hype. It's scarcity meeting awareness. And once awareness spreads, the fear changes sides. It's no longer the fear of acting. It's the fear of waiting. Here's a moment of humor to reset your focus. Imagine telling someone you passed on a penny worth nearly $1 million because it looked normal. That's not a mistake. That's a story people never stop regretting. The good news is you're here now. You're paying attention. And attention is the first currency of wealth. Whether you're holding onto old change, inherited collections, or coins you've never truly examined, this is your signal. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Now. Because high-demand assets don't announce themselves loudly. They reward the few who listen closely. So the next time you see a 1997 Lincoln penny, don't see copper. See potential. See leverage. See the possibility that one small decision, one careful look, can separate those who watch opportunities pass by from those who quietly step into them. The market is watching. Collectors are searching. And the question isn't whether these coins matter anymore. The question is whether you're ready to recognize what others still ignore. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America right now, a simple Lincoln penny is sitting quietly in a jar, a drawer, or a forgotten coin roll. It looks ordinary, feels ordinary, and yet, if it could speak, it would whisper a number that could change a life: $744,000. Before you scroll away or laugh and say, "That can't be real," let me ask you a dangerous question. What if you already owned one and didn't even know it? Because history shows us that fortunes are rarely loud. They hide in plain sight, and today we're uncovering one of the most powerful hidden stories in modern American coinage: the 2000 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny error. Act 1 begins with comfort, because the year 2000 felt safe. A new millennium, a fresh start. Millions of Americans were working, saving, living their lives, and pennies were being spent without a second thought. The U.S. Mint struck billions of Lincoln cents that year, flooding the economy with coins that seemed identical. And that's exactly why this story is so unsettling. When everything looks the same, mistakes become invisible. And when mistakes slip through the most advanced minting system in the world, they don't just become errors, they become legends. A small number of 2000 Lincoln pennies left the mint without a mint mark when they should never have. That single missing detail transformed pocket change into a high-stakes asset pursued by elite collectors and serious money. Here's where fear quietly enters the room. Most people assume rare coins look rare. They think value screams for attention. But this penny doesn't shout, it whispers. The design looks familiar. Lincoln's profile feels comforting. And that's the trap. Thousands of these coins were spent, lost, or ignored because no one bothered to look closely. Let's be honest for a second. How many pennies have you personally tossed aside without checking? Exactly. That uncomfortable feeling you're getting right now? That's awareness waking up. Now let's reset your attention with a quick thought. If I handed you $744,000 in cash, you'd probably inspect every bill twice. But if I handed you a penny, you might not even bend down to pick it up. Funny how perspective works, isn't it? And yet, collectors today are bending over backward for this exact coin, because demand is real, verified, and growing. High-grade examples of the 2000 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny error have reached market valuations around $744,000, and serious buyers aren't blinking. They're competing. As we move deeper into Act 2, excitement takes over. This isn't just about money, it's about power. Knowledge power. The kind of power that separates sellers from spenders. When collectors discovered this error, the narrative changed overnight. Auction houses took notice. Private collectors stepped in. Numismatic experts confirmed authenticity. And suddenly, a penny from the year 2000 became a status asset, a symbol of precision, rarity, and opportunity. The supply is microscopic compared to demand, and unlike stocks or digital assets, no more of these coins can ever be created. What exists is all there will ever be. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you found something in your own home that Wall Street can't manufacture more of? Exactly. That's why serious collectors pay serious money. And let's clear something up right now. This isn't about luck. It's about positioning. People who profit from rare coins aren't gamblers, they're observers. They check dates. They inspect mint marks. They understand that the smallest deviation can unlock enormous value. Here's a quick pattern break before we go further. Be honest, if pennies were truly worthless, why does the government still make them? Think about that. Now back to the story. The Lincoln penny carries emotional weight. It represents history, resilience, and America itself. When an error disrupts that legacy, collectors see more than metal. They see a moment frozen in time. That's why the 2000 no-mint mark error isn't just desirable, it's emotionally charged, and emotional assets command premiums. As demand increases, urgency begins to rise. These coins are not sitting unsold. They're being authenticated, graded, locked into collections, and removed from the open market. Every year that passes, fewer are available, and prices don't move sideways, they climb. The fear isn't missing out on buying one. The real fear is already owning one and letting it slip away unnoticed. Because once it's gone forever. Act 3 is where everything connects and where you step into control. This story doesn't end at an auction house. It ends with you taking action. Somewhere in your possession, or in a coin you haven't checked yet, could be a silent wealth builder. The people who win in this space aren't louder or smarter than everyone else. They're simply paying attention. They understand that rare pennies aren't about fantasy. They're about verified demand, documented errors, and disciplined selling. And let's be clear, this market rewards decisiveness. Collectors are actively searching. Buyers are ready. And when a high-grade 2000 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny surfaces, it doesn't wait around. It moves fast because wealthy people understand value when they see it. This is not a someday opportunity. This is a now moment. Awareness creates urgency, and urgency creates results. So before you dismiss the next penny you see, pause. Look twice. Because history has a habit of disguising wealth as something small. And the people who live a wealthy lifestyle aren't always the ones who earn more. They're the ones who recognize more. The question isn't whether rare coins are valuable. The question is whether you'll be the one who notices before the rest of the world does. What if the smallest object in your pocket was quietly judging you right now? A single penny. Thin. Ordinary. Easy to ignore. And yet, somewhere in America, one 2002 Lincoln 1-cent coin with no mint mark has shocked collectors, rewritten price guides, and stirred whispers of valuations reaching as high as $669,000. Let that sink in for a second. Not a gold bar, not a stock certificate, a penny. And the uncomfortable question is this: what if the next one is already sitting in your home, waiting for you to notice? This is not a fantasy, and it's not luck reserved for someone else. It's a pattern. History has shown us again and again that the greatest wealth transfers don't always arrive loudly. Sometimes they arrive quietly, copper-colored, and overlooked in a jar on a shelf. The 2002 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is one of those moments. Produced in an era when billions of coins flooded circulation, a small number escaped the system with critical minting anomalies, errors so rare, so precise, that today they place their owners in an entirely different financial conversation. Act 1 begins with trust. In 2002, Americans were told that modern coins held no real future value. Too common, they said. Too new, they laughed. And millions believed it. Pennies were tossed into drawers, cup holders, charity jars. Nobody was looking closely. And that's exactly when the most valuable errors were born. Because when attention disappears, opportunity sneaks in wearing ordinary clothes. Here's the twist most people miss. A missing mint mark on a 2002 Lincoln cent is not just an absence. It's a signal of a breakdown in the system, a moment when quality control failed, when a coin slipped through without the identifying mark collectors rely on. Now imagine this: millions of eyes passed over these pennies for years. Millions. And only a tiny fraction were ever caught, authenticated, and protected. Scarcity like that doesn't fade with time, it intensifies. Quick pause, be honest. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny before spending it? Exactly. That's how these coins win. Act 2 is where emotion takes over. Because once collectors realized what had happened, the mood shifted from curiosity to urgency. The demand didn't rise politely. It surged. High-end collectors don't chase coins like this for nostalgia. They chase them for dominance, for legacy, for the quiet power of owning something most people walked past their entire lives. Auction rooms grew tense. Private sales grew discreet. And values climbed into ranges that forced the world to reevaluate what modern coins are truly capable of. Fear enters the story here, and it's a useful fear. The fear of missing out. The fear of realizing too late that something extraordinary was already in your possession. Because every year, fewer verified examples exist in pristine condition. Coins are lost, mishandled, spent unknowingly. And as supply tightens, the market does what it has always done. It rewards the prepared and punishes the distracted. Now here's a moment to reset your attention with a little humor. Imagine explaining to your past self that the penny you ignored could someday be worth more than your first house. Sounds ridiculous. Until it isn't. History loves embarrassing skeptics. Excitement builds because this is not a closed chapter. These coins are still being discovered, still being authenticated, still changing lives quietly and legally. The market doesn't advertise these opportunities loudly. It doesn't need to. Serious money moves silently, and high-value collectors prefer it that way. That's why demand remains intense and competition remains fierce. Act 3 is about decision and destiny. Every generation has its moment where wealth shifts hands not through inheritance, but through awareness. The 2002 No Mint Mark Lincoln penny represents that moment for everyday Americans who are willing to slow down, look closer, and act with intention. This is not about gambling. This is about recognizing value before consensus makes it unreachable. Urgency matters now more than ever. As more people become educated, as more videos like this exist, the window narrows. Authentication standards tighten. Elite buyers move faster. And the difference between owning a life-changing asset and spending it for 1 cent often comes down to a single decision. Paying attention. Here's the powerful truth most people never hear. Wealth doesn't always announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it hides in plain sight. And sometimes it waits to see who is disciplined enough to notice. The collectors who dominate this market aren't smarter than everyone else. They're simply earlier. Earlier to look. Earlier to verify. Earlier to accede. So tonight, when you pass a jar of pennies, don't rush. When you see a 2002 Lincoln cent, don't dismiss it. Turn it over. Examine it. Because the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is often one missing detail. And in this market, missing details are exactly what command the highest respect. The question isn't whether rare coins can change lives. History has already answered that. The real question is whether you'll recognize opportunity when it's already in your hands. What if I told you that one ordinary-looking penny, yes, a single 1-cent coin you might have ignored for years, could be sitting quietly with a potential value approaching $788,000? Not a gold bar, not a stock tip, a penny. Before you laugh and say, "Come on, it's just pocket change," pause for a moment, because history has a funny habit of rewarding the people who look twice while everyone else looked away. This is the story of the 2013 United States Lincoln 1-cent coin with no mint mark, a modern coin that, under extremely specific conditions, has ignited intense demand among elite collectors. And today we're going to walk through why this coin matters, why time is not on your side, and why the difference between financial regret and financial freedom sometimes weighs just 2.5 grams. In 2013, billions of Lincoln pennies were struck and released into circulation. Most were spent, forgotten, dropped into jars, or lost in couch cushions. Nothing unusual. No headlines. No excitement. But here's where the story changes. A very small number of these coins were struck with critical minting anomalies, subtle errors that slipped through quality control at a time when the US Mint was pushing volume at record speed. And when speed meets metal, mistakes happen. Now, let me ask you a quick question, pattern interrupt moment. When was the last time a machine worked perfectly 100% of the time under pressure? Exactly. Even the most advanced systems fail. And when they fail at the US Mint, collectors pay attention, and they pay big. The 2013 No Mint Mark Lincoln cent is especially intriguing because it appears ordinary to the untrained eye. Abraham Lincoln's portrait looks familiar. The shield reverse seems standard. But to seasoned numismatists, certain examples reveal microscopic die errors, striking irregularities, and production anomalies so rare that they trigger immediate competition among high-net-worth collectors. This is not about average coins. This is about outliers, and outliers are where fortunes are made. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The supply of rare error coins never increases. Ever. Coins don't get rarer because of hype. They get rarer because time destroys them. They're spent, damaged, cleaned improperly, or melted away. Meanwhile, collector demand does the opposite. It grows, especially among investors aged 40 to 70 who are quietly shifting wealth out of volatile markets and into tangible, historically proven assets. And pennies? Pennies are the ultimate sleeper asset. Why? Because nobody suspects them. That's the fear trigger right there. Imagine realizing 5 years from now that you once had a 6-figure coin and spent it on a cup of coffee. That sting doesn't fade easily. Recent private sales and high-profile auction rumors have pushed the 2013 No Mint Mark error penny into elite conversations, with top-tier specimens, graded, authenticated, and virtually flawless, being discussed in valuation ranges that reach as high as $788,000. Not because it's old. Not because it's flashy. But because it's rare in a way money can't manufacture. Here's another quick reset. Humor me for a second. If I offered you a dusty painting from your attic or a sealed envelope that might contain a cashier's check for hundreds of thousands of dollars, which one would you open first? Exactly. And yet millions of Americans still don't check their coins. The urgency here is real. Professional buyers are actively hunting these pennies right now. They know something most people don't. Modern rarity is the next frontier. While everyone else chases 1909 SVDBs and 1943 copper legends, smart money is positioning early in modern era coins, before the mainstream catches on. If you're between 30 and 65, living in the United States, and you've ever saved coins, even casually, you're holding a lottery ticket you didn't know you bought. The opportunity isn't about luck. It's about awareness. The wealthy don't wait for permission. They verify, authenticate, and act decisively. A 2013 no-mint mark penny in pristine condition, with the right error profile, professionally graded, doesn't just represent money. It represents leverage, options, security, a lifestyle where choices aren't dictated by bills, but by desire. And the window to capitalize on this demand is narrowing as more coins are identified and locked away in private collections. Here's the final question, and let it sit with you. When history looks back on this moment, will you be one of the people who says, "I checked," or one of the people who says, "I wish I had"? Because the truth is simple and powerful. Wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers from the bottom of a coin jar. If you have 2013 Lincoln pennies, especially those with no visible mint mark, now is the time to take them seriously. Not tomorrow, not next year. Demand doesn't wait, and markets reward those who move early. Check your coins. Protect your future. And remember, big money doesn't always look big at first glance. What if I told you that the most powerful investment opportunity of this decade might already be sitting in your pocket, your change jar, or that dusty drawer you haven't opened in years? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes you may look at the humble 2016 Lincoln penny very differently. This is not just spare change. This is a quiet sleeper in American history, and for the people who recognize it, it has become a gateway to extraordinary wealth. And here's the uncomfortable question most people never ask themselves. What if you already owned one and didn't even know it? Act 1 begins with something most Americans overlook every single day. The 2016 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent coin. Struck in Philadelphia, this penny was produced in massive numbers, which is exactly why collectors ignored it at first. But history has a sense of humor, doesn't it? The most valuable stories often hide in plain sight. Certain 2016 pennies were born with striking minting anomalies, subtle errors that slipped through quality control during a year of intense production pressure. When these rare error specimens surface today, properly authenticated, they ignite serious interest among elite collectors who compete fiercely for the few confirmed examples known to exist. And yes, we're talking about headline-making valuations that have climbed into the high six-figure range, with figures near $899,000 capturing attention across the numismatic world. Not bad for something that once bought you absolutely nothing. Right, here's the pattern interrupt, quick reality check. Be honest with yourself. When was the last time a bank paid you that kind of return? Exactly. And this is why serious collectors move quietly while everyone else scrolls past. Fear creeps in here for a reason. Fear of missing out. Fear of realizing too late that opportunity doesn't knock loudly. It whispers. Coins like this don't announce themselves. They wait for informed eyes. And every year that passes, the supply tightens, demand intensifies, and the window narrows. That's not hype, that's how scarcity works. Now we move into Act 2, where excitement takes over. The 2016 Lincoln penny represents something bigger than metal and copper plating. It represents timing. The collectors driving this market are not casual hobbyists. They are high-net-worth individuals, investors, and legacy builders who understand one thing very clearly. Rare American coinage is portable wealth. It's private. It's tangible. And it doesn't care what the stock market did this morning. When a verified error coin appears, competition is immediate and aggressive. Auctions don't whisper, they roar. And this is why these pennies are described as being in extremely high demand. Once a serious buyer locks one into a private collection, It often disappears for decades. Here's a question to reset your attention. If wealth leaves clues, why do so many people refuse to follow them? The answer is comfort. Most people are comfortable believing wealth is complicated, reserved for someone else, somewhere else. But the truth is far more exciting and far more urgent. Wealth rewards awareness. It rewards those who take 5 minutes to look closely instead of a lifetime of wishing they had. And yes, sometimes it rewards someone who simply decided to check their coins before everyone else did. Act 3 is where urgency meets inspiration. The market for rare US pennies is not slowing down. It is accelerating. As more people become educated, fewer opportunities remain hidden. The 2016 no-mint mark Lincoln penny era is already transitioning from discovery phase into legacy asset territory. That shift changes everything. Early movers ask, is this real? Late movers ask, is it still available? And by the time everyone is convinced, the door is usually closed. This is why serious sellers and buyers act decisively. They understand that timing is not about luck. It's about readiness. So here's the empowering truth to end on. You don't need to be born wealthy to live wealthy. You need awareness, action, and the courage to look closer than the average person. Somewhere in America right now, a 2016 penny is being spent for face value, while another, nearly identical to the untrained eye, is being studied, graded, and pursued by collectors willing to pay life-changing money for it. The difference isn't the coin. The difference is knowledge. If you own old pennies, if you've ever wondered whether what you have might be more than what it seems, now is the moment to take that curiosity seriously. Because the next great financial story doesn't always begin on Wall Street. Sometimes it begins quietly with 1 cent and the decision to finally pay attention.